What up, what up, what up? We are back with another Fanshare Sports First Look. It feels like it has been forever, right? This has been the longest stretch without professional golf in such a long time. We've had the Outlaw Tour. That's been fun, but I am ready to get back into it. And we are here this week for the Charles Schwab Challenge. We have a absolutely stacked field playing at a classic course that's going to be a little bit of a different test for some of these guys who really haven't played here before. And I'm super excited about this event. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, there's a Millie Maker out there, and Fanshare Sports right now is free till June 30th. All right. So if you have been in the past, maybe thinking about joining Fanshare Sports, checking us out. We do have the best ownership projections in the game, bar none. If you are interested, come check us out this week. We have tons of content. Our Fanshare, you can see the ownership. You get access to my VI or my article that comes out on Wednesdays that looks at all the ownership and where we can make pivots and plays and things like that. You get access to that. You get access to Lee's showdown picks, his value picks. It's just, there's so much stuff going on at Fanshare Sports. And now we've added Lunas. I for sure said his name wrong, right? But he creates a showdown model that we are now going to be offering for our Fanshare Pro members. That is really second to none. He's in charge of our ownership stuff too, and just does a fantastic job. So I really couldn't be more excited about the stuff that's going on here at Fanshare Sports. It's been a tough break here. Don't get me wrong, right? I've missed golf probably more than anyone, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And now we get the Charles Schwab Challenge, right? Back in Fort Worth, Texas, a classic club, right? Colonial Country Club. It's hosted an event since 1946, which is really, really incredible. It's a Perry Maxwell and John Bredemus design. This was, a course in Texas that, a private person owned and started for himself. He invited people, decided that he wanted to get the USGA to come, donated a ton of money. They got the US Open here in 1941. And then since 1946, they've hosted this event, Colonial Country Club, also known as the home of Ben Hogan, right? A Fort Worth native. It's a par 70, right? So we talk about how this is going to be a little bit different for guys coming back, right? In the past, this has kind of been a second tier event. All right. We look at, the course record: Keith Clearwater, Lee Janzen, Greg Kraft, Justin Leonard, Kevin Na, Kenny Perry, Chad Campbell. It's not your typical, and when we look at, winners here in a second, it's not your typical stud event, right? And that's because the course is a little bit tricky. It's a par 70, it's 7209. There is some length, there is some holes that are shorter, but the real interesting thing about Colonial is that everything is going to be tree line. So you're going to see when you watch on TV this week that especially now without fans here, you're going to be able to see those tree line fairways quite a bit. All right. And those are big issues, not necessarily because you're going to be blocked by the tree. You're going to be blocked by the limbs, right? So you're going to have to hit a lot of, you're going to see guys hitting a lot of punch outs here. And it's a fairly tight course. So it's an interesting little event. We do have bent grass greens, which is not something that we play a ton. Fairways are Bermuda, pretty classic. It's got the home to the horrible horseshoe. Hole number 5 is one of the hardest courses, or one of the hardest holes on tour. Like I said, I host the 41 US Open, 1975 players. In classic tradition, you do get a tartan jacket here if you're the winner. One of these, I believe, are we going to go to Heritage next week and they get a tartan jacket too? I can't remember, but they, we look at the former winners here: Kevin Na, Justin Rose, Kevin Kisner, Jordan Spieth, Chris Kirk. So when I look at that list, what it tells me is that you don't need length to be successful here. All right. The average cut line is 1.38 over par, and that is the 8th hardest on tour on average. So this is, again, a difficult course. Now, we might see the cut line a little bit lower because we don't see necessarily the top tier guys come and play here. We've got tons of studs: Rory, Ram, Brooks, DJ, Finau, guys, not necessarily that have played here a ton. Right. We look at the previous winners here. Like I said, you got Kevin Na, Spieth, not guys that are super long. Kisner, right? They're not super long off the tee, but have done well here. Okay. But then on the opposite end, you got guys like Chad Campbell, you got guys like Tony Finau who have been really Ryan Palmer, who have been really successful here and have that length. So, if you want to be short, you got to be accurate, right? If you're going to be long, you want to be accurate as well. And what it really comes down to is having that combination of accuracy and then that approach game to get it tight to make some birdies here. So last year, the average score was 0.048 over par. Only 12 eagles, right? Well, we cut our eagle opportunities really in half by going to 2 par 5s. And one of the par 5s plays at 635 yards. So we're not looking at a lot of eagles. You are going to see some birdies here. But it's few and far between, right? You got to make hay on those par 5s, right? And then these shorter par 4s are where you're really going to score. You got 4 par 3s that are right around 200 yards. You're not going to see birdies there. You got to score on the par 5s and you got to score on the short par 4s. Actually, one of the shorter par 4s, the 17th, 387 yards, actually played over par last year. 62 bogeys, 4 double bogeys, and that brings water into play, obviously. But it's a tough course. Some of the winning scores here, 13. The Rose year was a little bit out of control. Minus 20 was Rose, and Brooks kind of tore this part of course apart. And hey, that's 2 top players in the world at the time. Maybe we see that again this year when we have lots of studs out here. It's definitely a possibility. Like I said, you got 0 short par 3s, 4 long ones. 4 short par 4s, but not necessarily the easy type par 4 play, medium par 4s, and then 2 long par 5s. So it's definitely a tough track. All right, there's that eagle percentage, 33rd, not great. Birdie percentage, not bad. Birdies versus average, there is some birdies to be had out here. Bogey average, not bad. So some of my key takeaways when I just look at the course overall is that driving accuracy is key to win. So all but 3 of the winners here since 2011 have ranked in the top 33 in driving accuracy. And I think 8 of those actually finished in the top 20. So Spieth, Scott, and Kirk, Scott, surprisingly, all finished outside of the top 33 in driving accuracy, but all had, Spieth obviously had just an insane putting week when he won, and really, I remember it being back in 2016, that was when I was first starting to get into DFS golf, and actually I had Spieth and Palmer on a lot of teams together, and they finished 1-2, and that was one of the better weeks that I've had overall in the entire, in the game. So, but yeah, Spieth had a crazy putter week. Scott not having a great driving week is a little bit surprising. But it might not be the key overall, because 10 of the 13 runner-ups here in that same time period have finished outside of the top 33. So it's not something that, there's different, my old man always says there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right? The same thing comes with golf, right? There's 1,000 ways to get it done around here. I think I'm really going to look for a combination of guys who are fairly accurate, who are gaining fairways, right? And then have that approach game to go with it. Because if you're not accurate here, or if you are accurate and you don't have an approach game, then it doesn't matter, right? Or if you have a great approach game, but you're in the trees, doesn't matter either, right? So you got to find that kind of happy medium here. Like I said earlier, those overhanging trees are an issue, right? You actually want to miss the fairways by a large margin. If you can get in the other fairway, you're in good shape here, actually. Maybe a guy like Spieth, who's going to be popular, I can't imagine that he's really fixed his driving issues in the last 100 days. Maybe he's, in good enough shape because he's far enough away. Bent grass putters, okay? Here's the issue this week again, is that nobody's played for the most part. There's been some money games at TPC Sawgrass and these little 1 to 2 day things that guys are playing in, but nobody's really played for what we're going to look at and that we can actually quantify, right? So I might look at some historically good bent grass putters. You do need to get hot with the putter here. We've seen that, and really that's true for any tournament, right? You need to putt well to win a tournament and do well. But, you might be able to find a little bit of an edge looking at some of these bent grass putters. And this is a narrative that you're going to see a lot this week, is that short hitters are not dead here, right? And we know that it's still 72.05. It's somewhat long, but we've seen guys like Na and Kisner and Jim Furyk had a ton of success here. So these short hitters are going to get a bump, and I think that what we're seeing sort of in the within the DFS community this week is that, hey, boom, we talk about short hitters, we talk about accuracy, things like that, and yes, I think you need to do that to be successful here. But at the same time, like, those short hitting type guys aren't necessarily guys that are your top tier stars, right? And when the top tier stars like Brooks Koepka and Justin Rose have played here, they've actually had a ton of success. So don't necessarily fall into the narrative that you need to find all these guys that are short and accurate. Rory McIlroy is going to hit it 330 off the tee, but he's going to hit it, he's going to be able to hit a 2-iron and that driving iron or a 3-wood off the tee here a ton and still be in good shape. And actually maybe in better shape. We saw that with Finau last year. He barely hit driver all week and was in great shape and just kind of didn't have a great Sunday to get a win. So while I think, we should pay some credence to those short hitters, you don't necessarily need them. Event history, we look back here. Brooks Koepka, obviously number 114 points. He finished runner up here to Justin Rose in his one appearance. Justin Rose obviously struggled a little bit here last year. Jordan Spieth has had a ton of success, right? 94 average DK points in 5 appearances. That's where you really want to look at here is these appearance numbers. So guys that have been here a ton and played well. Kevin Na is similar, right? So we can't take a ton of credence to like a Troy Merritt had one good appearance here a couple of years ago, right? Harris English, obviously been successful. Chris Kirk, Matt Kuchar's been really successful here. Russell Knox, Brian Harmon. Once you see guys start to show up quite a bit, and now they're consistently having those good results. That's what I want to see, right? And then similarly, I want to look at, one other, this is all stuff that you can find in Fanshare Pro in the research section. You can look, that was just by Colonial. Now I'm just looking at all par 70s, right? I think that there's something to be said for scoring on par 70s. What that really tells you is that you can probably make hay when the sun shines on those par 5s, but really you're a good par 3 and good par 4 player, a good iron player. So, that's going to tell me over these. So this is over the last 10 events on par 70s, what our average scores were. You got your studs, the Rorys, the Webbs, the Dustins, but Charles Howell shows up here as a guy who's been playing well on par 70s. Kevin Na, again, I think he'll be very popular. Billy Horschel is a guy that I really like this week. He's been playing really good in those TPC Sawgrass money games. I think kind of fits the bill of the type of mid-tier price value play that I could get involved in. Harris English going to be very chalky. Scotty Scheffler going to be very chalky, but all fairly good par 70 players. So right now, obviously it's early and we're Monday. We're not too far away for them to predict. It looks like it's going to be hot, right? Not going to be super humid, not going to be super windy, just hot in the afternoon. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a big time wave advantage. The weather looks fairly similar each day. If I was going to maybe target something just for the sake of doing it, I'd maybe look at guys teeing off Thursday AM and going off in the afternoon on Friday. Maybe we get a chance. The gusts aren't as strong on Friday afternoon. I always kind of like guys coming in knowing what the number has to be on Friday afternoon too to make the cut. But those are what we're going to see, at least for Showdown too, especially we really want to target those AM guys because these greens are going to get baked out in the afternoon. And when they get baked out, they are going to be rock solid. It is going to be hard to score on them. So if you're going to play Showdown on Thursday and Friday, you really want to target those guys off early in the morning, those first, 5, 6, 7 tee times, and really try to, you might miss out on a score in the afternoon, but I think overall that's where you're going to be in good shape. So where I'm at this week for my winner, I got John Ram. I just think that Ram is an underrated play all the time. He is so good. He's finally priced like it, and I think that's going to keep his ownership down. I just really have I really had a good feel on Ram this week for DK purposes. I'm going to have a lot of lineups that are going to be centered around John Ram. Chalk donkeys. So here, this is a very important, you're going to hear this from a lot of people. They're going to say, the only thing that we have really control over this week is going to be ownership. So avoid the chalk. So right now, guys getting lots of tags being talked about are Harris English, Jordan Spieth, and Scotty Scheffler. Outside of Spieth, you won't find me going there. Course history be damned. I just don't think his game is in a place like where he can contend, right? $8,000 makes it a little bit more interesting for his salary, but I'm going to avoid it because I think that regardless, he's going to be somewhat highly owned. Now, Harris English and Scotty Scheffler, if they get a ton of buzz on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday here, we're going to see them come in maybe 10% less owned than they really should be. Because again, everybody's talking about we need to be contrarian this week. And I agree, right? The ownership is the one thing that you can control, but the thing about ownership is that everybody sees similar numbers, right? So we're going to see that, hey, Harris English is really projecting to be highly owned. Scotty Scheffler is really going to be projected to be highly owned. And what's everybody going to do? They're going to pivot, right? So it's not a bad idea if we start seeing people talk, and that's something that you can track within Fanshare Pro is the sentiment, right? So both Harris English and Scotty Scheffler are at 100% right now. Well, if I look on Wednesday and see that number's dropped like to 90% or 85%, I know that their ownership is going to come in way less than it should be. So now I can jack up how much more of them I want. All right. Sleepers, again, this is similar to the same conundrum that we talked about a minute ago with the chalk players, is that, some of these guys that we think are going to be sleepers now maybe everybody's going to jump on because they're going to go, oh, that's the natural pivot off. Sebastian Munoz is the natural pivot off Harris English. Tony Finau is the natural pivot off Scotty Scheffler or whatever. Right. So you got to be careful about what your sleepers, right? I think that of anybody, Finau is probably going to stay really underowned, and I think that's crazy because he's just world class. I think this course really fits him well. He's priced right. I'm big in right now. I think we're projecting him at about 3.8% owned. He probably comes in around 7. For me, I'm going to be double the field, 20% at least. Right. So definitely a guy that I love this week. So as always, give us a follow on Twitter. There's all our hashtags. We'll have stuff. I'll have my taking the Pulse article, looking at the ownership up on Wednesday for you guys. Right now we are free until June 30th. After June 30th, right? So you can use us till June 30th. After June 30th, you want to become a Fanshare Pro member, you can use that code Josh, right? 20% off a pro membership. Any subscription that we have gets you 20% off. So again, make sure you check out all our content at Fanshare Sports this week. It is free. Welcome back to golf. I am so excited. Let's win some money this week. I hope somebody that we know, somebody that's a Fanshare Pro member, or somebody that watches this video takes down $1 million. That would make my day, right? All right. Have a great week, guys.